Alrighty, today's lesson is all about estimating quotients. We're going to be drawing on some knowledge that we haven't worked with for a little while, so you're going to have to dig deep in those brains to find what we need. Today we're going to be talking about finding compatible numbers. I want your brain to be thinking about fact families and thinking about how multiplication and division are related, because that's going to help you with today's lesson. So remember that a quotient is the answer to a division problem. So we are going to try and see how reasonable our answers are also. So to estimate a quotient, you can use compatible numbers or numbers that are easy to divide mentally. So you're trying to find numbers that will work well together. You don't want to have to write out the long division problem if you can do it in your head. So number 1 says, a dog's heart beats 365 times in 3 minutes. About how many times does a dog's heart beat in 1 minute? So we're going to start out with the original problem. If that's 365 in 3 minutes, we've got to take the total and divide it by 3, right? So we've got 365 divided by 3. Now, that's not an easy problem to do in your head. If we're looking for about how many, then we can use rounding to help us. So what we're going to be doing is changing this into a number that's going to work better with this divisor, okay? My brain's already thinking as I'm looking this, thinking, okay, 365, what is that close to? And I'm also thinking about multiples of 3. Well, let's see what we can do. It's asking us to take that number and change it into another number to find something that is a compatible number. So, what they're suggesting we do is change 365 into 360. The reason they're choosing that number is because I can kind of do that math in my head. So instead of doing 365, they're going to do 360, which is not the right way to round. I know, don't panic. We're just looking for a number that's close. It doesn't have to follow the rounding rules for this one. So if we have 360 divided by 3, you're thinking to yourself, oh, how many 3's fit into 3? That's 1. How many 3's fit into 6? That's 2. And how many 3's fit into 0? That's 0. So we've kind of taken this math problem and done it in our heads. If you need to, it's totally okay to write out the division problem. Just because they say try to do it mentally doesn't mean you have to do it mentally. Use what you know. So here's the problem if I write it out, just so you need, in case you need it. This is 360 divided by 3. How many 3's fit into 3? 1. Subtract. Bring down the next number. How many 3's fit into 6? 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Subtract. Bring down the next number. How many 3's fit into 0? 0. This is the same quotient that we ended up with. I just did this one in my head. All right, so as we're filling in the blanks down this page, you've already got your numbers that belong in the boxes here. So we can say a dog's heart beats about 120 times per minute, okay? So we can use multiplication to check our answer and make sure that we're close. So remember, in a fact family, you've got the 4 different math problems that you can do. Basically, here's the fact family we just created. We have 360 at the top, because that's our dividend. It's our biggest number. It's a multiplication and division fact family. One side of it would be 3, and we're saying the other side is 120. So if we want to check our math and make sure that this division problem is correct, we can multiply numbers to see if we end up with the dividend. So we can multiply these numbers. We can say 120 times 3 and see what we get. So if you can do this in your head, fantastic. I can, because it's a multiple of 12. So 12, 24, 36, which would be 360. If you can't, it's okay. I've got a lot more experience with math than you guys do. If you need to take this and come over on the side and multiply it the right way, please do. 0 times 3 is 0. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. Either way, I'm just looking to make sure we can get the correct answer, okay? So we just use multiplication right here to check and make sure that our answer works, and it does. So that's what you're going to fill in here at the bottom of this page. Now on to the next page. We'll work through another example together. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this guy off so we've got some room to work. Let's do another one together. On the back, example 2 says to estimate 208 divided by 8. There will be times that you actually need to change both numbers to make it work. This is going to be one of those problems. So I'm thinking in my head, already I'm thinking, okay, multiples of 8. 8, 16, 24. I'm trying to find something I can get this close to, but it's really difficult to get it close to anything. So we're going to do one step at a time. The book asks you to go ahead and take this down to a number. So I would say the first step, I'd probably take it down to 200 because that's really close to 208. Let's start there. So we would have 200 divided by 8. Well, as you know, if we're dividing by 8, 20 is not a multiple of 8, so that problem's not going to come out right in our heads. So they're taking it a step further. They're asking you to go ahead and estimate this number. Use a compatible number here. So it has you bring this one down, and you've got these same boxes on your paper to fill in. I'm going to keep the 200. I kind of like that number. But instead of using 8, I'm going to pick a number that's going to be easier to divide. 8 is really close to 10. We know that we can do multiplication and division with 10 pretty easily. So if we do that, let's see. How many 10s will fit into 200? Okay? I know that my answer is 20 because I can do that in my head, but you guys may or may not be able to. So let's take 200 and divide it by 10. How many 10s fit into 20? 2 of them. 10 times 2 is 20. Bring down your 0. How many 10s fit into 0? 0. So here we end up with 20, right? The other thing that you can remember when you're dividing by 10, this is a little trick. I'm going to put it up here in the corner so we don't get too confused. Here's our little trick of the day. When you are dividing by 10, you're moving a decimal to the left, okay? So dividing by powers of 10, you move the decimal to the left. So we're starting with the number 200. Now because this is a whole number, there's like its own imaginary decimal point right here, right? Because it's 200 and that's a whole number. So that's what happens in front of that decimal. If we're dividing it by 10, we're going to be moving it to the left one space because there's 1 0 in 10, which would equal 20. For example, if we had the number 2000, which has our imaginary decimal point there at the end because this is the whole number side, and we wanted to divide that by 100, I know that I'm going to be moving my decimal point to the left because we're dividing, and I'm going to move it 2 spaces because there's 2 zeros in 100. So I would move it here and here. So the answer to that problem would also be 20. So take a look at this guy. If I take 2000, just to show you that I am doing legit math here, if I take 2,000 and I divide it by 100, just like we said here, 100 fits into 200 one time. Oh, not one time, 2 times. Bad math, Miss G. Start again. 100 fits into 200 2 times. 100 times 2 is 200. We subtract, bring down the next number. Can 100 fit into 0? No, it cannot. That means our answer is 20. So if you're dividing, every 0 in a 10 moves it one spot to the left. Okay? Let's go ahead with this page. Down here so our answer to that problem was about 20. So 208 divided by 8 is about 20 because we estimated these numbers, rounded them, did whatever we needed to get some compatible numbers. Let's take a look at the last one on this page. So we have 850 divided by 9. So I am already thinking to myself, I'm thinking multiples of 9, or maybe multiples of 10, because 10 is a lot easier to divide with than any of these other numbers. So they're asking us to go ahead and keep the 9, according to this paper. So if I'm thinking multiples of 9, I'm over here in my head thinking, okay, 9 times what is going to be close to this number? Well, 9 times 9 is 81. So I'm thinking that that's kind of close. I've got 9 times 10 is 90. That's pretty close too. I think I want to turn that into 900. My brain likes to round, and when I see that 5, I automatically want to take it into 900. And if I do that, that's a compatible number. It works really well with 9. So if we do that, 900 divided by 9, well, that would be 100. So you've got some things to put in here to fill in those blanks on that page. There are different ways to solve these problems. We didn't have to do it this way. The reason I stuck with the 9 is because the book has it there. But you're going to come across some problems that you're going to have to make a decision about what works best. As long as you can find a compatible number, a number that's close to it, that means your answer is going to be reasonable, okay? If the book didn't do this, we're off on another Mrs. G tangent here, okay? So here's another trick. This is not in the book. We could have taken this original problem, 850 divided by 9, and we could have said, okay, I want to change this number. I'm going to leave the 850 the way it is, but maybe I want to change this number. Maybe I want to make this into a 10. So maybe I want to say 850 divided by 10. Well, thinking back to the trick we learned earlier, if we take 850, which is a whole number, so our decimal point would be at the end of it. Like I could add as many zeros as I wanted to, but we don't need those for this problem. If you take the 850 and divide it by 10, that means you're moving that decimal point one space to the left because we're dividing, so it says go to the left. One space goes right there, so my answer would be 85. All right, so you can see that's relatively close to that number. They're not exact. You could go another way. You could make it a multiple of 9. You could make it 810 divided by 9, and that would be 90. All three of these answers are close enough to each other to be considered correct answers. So you've got to find a strategy that's going to work best for you. I like to divide by 10. It's easy. I like multiples of a number. That one appeals to me too. Any one of those will work for this, okay? If you need additional help, you can email me at mvaw123@gmail.com. See you soon.